The Internet of the mid-2000s was a different beast. It was a digital Wild West, a landscape of bizarre forums, clunky flash games, and social networks that look ancient by today's standards. In der CS world, there Habbo Hotelits Forutins, a heavily moderated, sanitized virtual space. But on July 12, 2006, the gates of this pristine garden were kicked down by an anonymous army, an internet force of nature that came to be known for its chaos. This is the story of the day 4chan took down Habbo Hotel. First, to understand the conflict, you have to understand the battlefield. Habbo Hotel, run by a Finnish company called Sulake, wasn't just a game, it was a social platform. You created a little pixel avatar, decorated your own private room with virtual furniture, and hung out with other users in public spaces like cafes, clubs, and, most famously, the rooftop pool. It was massively popular, kind of protoverse for the génération. However, it was also a walled garden with an iron fist. The entire ecosystem was governed by incredibly strict rules and a legion of moderators or hubbers. Swearing was filtered, disruptive behavior was met with swift, permanent bans, and the entire economy ran on Habbo credits, a virtual currency you bought with very real money. It was, in essence, a heavily commercialized and controlled digital playground, designed to be safe, predictable, and profitable. Meanwhile, in a much darker and more chaotic corner of the web, 4chan was festering. Specifically, its most infamous board, B, the random board. If Habbo was a curated, family-friendly theme park, B was a lawless, anonymous back alley where literally anything could and did happen. There were no user profiles, no post histories, and no real consequences. It was a primordial soup of creativity, degeneracy, and pure, unadulterated nihilism. B was the birthplace of countless memes, but it was also a coordinating ground for some of the Internet's most notorious pranks and raids. For the denizens of B, the sanitized, corporate-driven world of Habbo Hotel represented everything they despised about the evolving Internet. They saw it as a cancer, a term they used frequently to describe anything they deemed mainstream, conformist, or creatively bankrupt. So, you had this fundamental clash of ideologies. On one side, the rigid order of Habbo, on the other, the absolute chaos of 4chan. A collision was inevitable. In early July 2006, a plan began to form on B. The operation was simple in its goal, to completely paralyze Habbo Hotel, but the execution was absurdly specific. The raiders would all create accounts and adopt the same exact avatar, a black, male character dressed in a grey business suit and sporting a large afro. This choice wasn't random. It was deliberately chosen to be a uniform to create a sense of an invading army, and to be visually jarring against the typical Habbo user. The mission was given a name that would become legendary in Internet lore. Pool S closed. This phrase, which the raiders were instructed to spam relentlessly, was a reference to an old, offensive joke on B about public pools being closed due to people with AIDS. It was juvenile. It was tasteless, and it was perfectly suited for the kind of disruptive, offensive humor that defined the board. The plan was set. The date was chosen. July 12th would be the day of the Great Habbo Raid. When the day arrived, it was a quiet, normal day in the hotel. Users were chatting, trading furniture, and relaxing by the pixelated water of the sun deck Lido, then Teapired. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. An army of identical men in grey suits and afros began flooding the hotel's most popular public rooms. They moved with a strange, hive-mind coordination that was deeply unsettling to regular players. They weren't there to chat, they were there to obstruct. Their primary tactic was the blockade. Using their avatars, they formed solid, impassable human walls, blocking the entrances to rooms and, most importantly, the entrances to the pool. Anyone trying to enter was met with a line of silent, afro-clad figures, and then the spam began. The Shalog, normally filled with teenage slang conversations about virtual pets, were flooded. Pools closed. The avatars chanted in unison. Pools closed. Ove en dove, the phrase filled the screen, drowning out all other communication. The raiders also formed their avatars into giant, offensive symbols, most notably swastikas, right in the middle of public lobbies. The carefully constructed order of Habbo Hotel shattered into 1,000,000 confused pixels. Sulake's moderators were completely and utterly unprepared. They started banning the offending accounts as fast as they could, but it was useless. For every account they banned, 3 more seemed to take its place. For Chan, users were creating new accounts in seconds, circumventing IP bans with simple proxies. The moderators were playing a game of whack-a-mole against an infinite number of moles. They were fighting a decentralized swarm with centralized tools, and they were losing badly. The raid went on for hours. The entire hotel was functionally shut down, not by a technical hack, but by the sheer, overwhelming force of coordinated, low-tech disruption. The raiders had won. In the aftermath, the digital dust settled. Sulake eventually regained control of their servers, issuing a corporate non-statement about technical difficulties and banning thousands of accounts. But the damage was done, and the story exploded. Tech blogs and even some mainstream news outlets reported on the bizarre virtual protest. For 4 it was a massive victory. It's a powerful, if derifying, for the internet. It proved that a leaderless, anonymous collective could organize and execute a plan that could bring a multi-million-dollar virtual world to its knees. The pool's closed raid became a cornerstone of internet history. The image of the afro-clad avatar is now an iconic symbol of old-school trolling and the chaotic spirit of the early web. It was more than just a prank. It was a culture war fought on a digital battlefield. It was a statement against the sanitization and commercialization of online spaces. The raiders, in their own crude and offensive way, were fighting for an internet that was wild, unpredictable, and free. Today, Habbo Hotel still exists, a shadow of its former self. En 4, while still a hub of chaos, operates in an internet that is vastly more controlled, centralized, and monitored than the one it terrorized in 2006. The Great Habbo Raid remains a relic of that bygone era. A bizarre and fascinating chapter in the story of how the internet became what it is today. It's a reminder that sometimes the most significant events in digital history aren't driven by sophisticated code, but by a simple, absurd idea and an army of anonymous users with too much time on their hands. This raid is just one of countless stories from the Internet's wild and often undocumented history. From the first flame wars to the fall of digital empires, the web is full of events that shaped the world we now inhabit. If you want to see more deep dives into the digital ghosts that haunt our past, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You never be up next.